Hello friends, today is 23rd January 2017 and we are going to discuss the articles of The Hindu. So before starting the discussion, let's have a look at the article which we are going to discuss. Here this small article is related to Jallikattu. Some important points from this article we would discuss and important from our exams point of view. This article is not important for us because the issues which have been included in these articles are the internal politics of USA, so not important from UPSC's perspective. Main article is related to Rohingya issue, so also some points are important for us. So we will discuss this article. And next is compulsory retirement given to 2 IPS officer and 1 IS officer. Very important article for paper 2 and paper 4 also. So besides this, apart from this, if time permits, we would also discuss some articles of Economist Times. So let's start with the Jallikattu. Jallikattu, we have already discussed a lot about the Jallikattu. Now, you also know that a mass movement is currently being going on in Tamil Nadu, and now today I was reading the news that now that movement has become the violent. So to appease the protesters who have been sitting there in the Marina Drive, Tamil Nadu government actually passed the ordinance, and actually this subject, Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, this subject is in the content list, and both central government and state government can pass the law on this. And after taking the permission from the central government, state government passed the ordinance, but still the protesters have not been appeased and they are implaceable. So actually the central government also, they are demanding that there must be the permanent solution, and the central government must pass the law so that permanent solution can be carved out of this. But actually they are not familiar with this fact that actually the law passed by the parliament may also come under the judicial scrutiny. So now what is way forward? Actually now the protesters who have been protesting there, they also must demand the regulation of Jallikattu so that no life is lost while playing that game. And now this, you can see that this movement has become the movement of Tamil identity and Tamil culture. And they are protesting against the mainstream political parties, and some sections of the society are also saying that you can see that anti-social elements or traitors have hijacked that movement because indication is directly towards the LTTA, because LTTA was spreading the movement in Sri Lanka to demand a separate nation out of the Sri Lanka. Now that may be the responsible against that movement, which now have become the violent. So in the last article also says that it is not Tamil culture which legitimizes the death of the people who play that game, and even no culture legitimizes this kind of thing. It is not culture at all. So this was the article of Jallikattu. Only few points were important. We can use those points in our answers. So next is the article of Rohingyas. The question may come like that: comment on the Myanmar Rohingya problem. Rohingya, as you know, that it's a minority community which has been living in the Myanmar, but there have been various or several allegations against the Myanmar government that they oppress the Rohingya people. And the question is, examine why the world is not acting enough to solve this problem. What should be the India's response to Rohingya's problem? In the past also we discussed a lot of articles. Those persons who wrote the articles, they were demanding that India should raise the concerns about the oppression done by the Myanmar government in the Rohingya, against the Rohingyas. So actually Rohingya, according to some experts, it is said that Rohingya, you can say that Rohingya has been oppressed most in all the world. No community has been oppressed or injustice has been done against a community like against Rohingyas has been done. So Rohingyas, as you know, that they also have been deprived of citizenship in the Myanmar. According to the act passed by the Myanmar government in 1982, they have not been given the citizenship. And the Myanmar government, they say that Rohingya, they came from the Rohingya people, they came from the Bangladesh. But it is sufficient evidence which is available, which proves that Rohingyas were actually living in the Myanmar below 1823 when the British occupied the Arakan state. Or even when we accept this fact that they came from the Bangladesh, even Bangladesh is not ready to accept or accommodate them. So now they have become the stateless people. That's how they are suffering. Recently, what happened? Recently, actually, there was an attack on the military post of Myanmar army. So now it was alleged that this attack was carried out by the Rohingya people. So now they have military started an operation in which a lot of Rohingyas people have been killed, and women of Rohingyas have been exploited. Whole villages have been razed, And also a mass exodus we saw in the Rohingyas community. They have been going to other different countries, and but the other countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, they also do not willing to, they don't intend to accommodate the Rohingyas people, and some, like you can say that, get stranded in the seas. So that's how they suffer. And even Myanmar government is not able to acknowledge the kind of injustice which has been done against them. A government appointed inquiry committee, that committee says that no cases of genocide or religious persecution that committee sees. Now, here is a case of Suu Kyi. Suu Kyi, you know, that foreign minister of Myanmar. Although she was supposed to become the president, but just because of the rule that if anyone if anyone having the spouse having the foreign citizenship cannot become the president of the country, and Suu Kyi husband was having the British citizenship, that's how she couldn't become the president. Now she is the foreign minister of Myanmar. Now she got the Nobel Prize in 1990s, and she was supposed to say something on the Rohingyas issue, and there were also allegations against her that she didn't visit the Rohingya community when election was going on in the Myanmar, and also she even didn't acknowledge the kind of injustice which has been done against the Rohingyas. Although we accept the fact that currently, although democracy has come in the Myanmar, but still defense, border affairs and the home affairs, these three key departments now still come under the army, and 1/4 seats are also reserved for the army in the parliament of Myanmar. And the next is Suu Kyi's response to the Rohingya issues inadequate or half-hearted. She must have spoken against the Rohingyas for their cause and for their interests, but she didn't speak. Next is, she appointed a committee under the guidance of Kofi Annan. You also know that he's a former Secretary General of UN. Actually, later it came to light that that committee was appointed for the development and reconciliation. It is good. The development must come in the Rohingyas region, but how peace can be established there unless no justice is given to the Rohingyas people? So first, the priority must be given to give the justice to the Rohingyas people. That's how we can establish the peace there. So we must give justice to them. So why world is not raising voice for the Rohingyas people? Actually, 3-4 things are important for that. Article actually analyzes the various stakeholders who are not raising their concerns. First is current geopolitical realities or strategic calculations. They actually bind the various stakeholders to raise concern for the Rohingya people. Actually, Western countries like European countries or US, they are busy in tackling the issue of Syria, because Syria issues directly affecting them, and Syria issue is causing the migrant crisis there in the European countries. And the next is US. US is also not raising concerns for the Rohingya people. You know why? Because for last 30 years when army was ruling the Myanmar, so at that time US was supporting the Suu Kyi, and US was against the army rule. Now the Suu Kyi has taken the power, so US is like reluctant to oppose that rule which it earlier supported. And next is UN. UN, you also know that you can say that as Trump said that it is just a club and talk soaps. People just talk here and do not take the action. So that's why UN has become the powerless body. Not because Trump says. Even we have the various instances. You can take the case like try to remember if anything has ever in the recent time done by the UN. No, we can't. We are not able to recall, because actually no concrete work has been done by the UN. And actually a closed door meeting was held in the UN, and China opposed that meeting, and China said that Rohingya issue is the internal matter of Myanmar, so we are not supposed to interfere in that issue. So now the case of regional players, why they are not raising the concerns. Beijing is actually, you can say that they are able to maintain the relations with the Myanmar generals, so they need not to take any step which actually frustrates those military generals, because if China frustrate those military generals, then they would not provide China to the access of Myanmar's resources. And that's how, and why India is not raising concerns, because India thinks that because Myanmar is very important country for the security of our northeast region, and also if India, you can say that, raise concerns about the kind of oppression or injustice done by the Myanmar people against the Rohingyas, then Myanmar may, you can say that, get more close towards the China, which India would never want. That's how India is not opposing against the Myanmar. Although India's track record is very good in the past and India accommodated a lot of Rohingyas people now, but the policy has almost changed because in the recent time we saw that a lot of Rohingyas people have been turned away by the India, and also some have been sent to jail because of the illegal entry into our region. As you also know that India is not signatory to the 1951 United Nations Refugee Convention or its 1967 protocols. So this convention is not binding on the India. And some sections in our country, they also said that some Rohingya people now they have arrived in the Jammu and Kashmir, so they must get away from that region because they may result as a security threat for our country. And also government is trying to bring a new bill, that is Citizenship Amendment Bill 2016. So what is there in that bill? Actually, this bill says that minority communities living in our neighboring countries like Bangladesh, Pakistan, and Afghanistan. So what may be those minority communities? This may include the Hindus, Sikhs, and Jains, Parsis, and Christians. If they are being persecuted in our neighboring countries, then India would accept them, and India would never say them as illegal migrants. But as but as Muslims are not there in these 5 communities, so some people say that it hurts our secular model, and although it is pro minority, but it is anti-Muslim also because Muslim is not there in the 5 communities list. So what is way forward? Actually, India must raise the concerns of Rohingyas, because if Myanmar is stable, then it is also better. It is also beneficent for the interest of India. So first reason why India must raise the concerns of Rohingya is that if peace comes to the Myanmar, then India can again ask Myanmar to rehabilitate the Rohingyas, and India asked the Pakistan to rehabilitate India asked the Bangladesh to rehabilitate the Bangladeshi refugees. Those people came in our India when the persecution was going on against them by the Pakistan authorities. Second thing is, if Myanmar is being stable and Myanmar is being democratic, then it is also beneficial for us. Third reason is, if there is no peace in the Myanmar, or oppression is consistently being done against the Rohingyas, then there may be the radicalization among the Rohingya communities, which also may be harmful for us because they may also strike terror attack in India also. So India must use the creative policy, creative diplomacy, how they can use. India must appoint a special envoy. What that guy would do, actually he would have the negotiations with all the stakeholders like Dhaka, Bangladesh, China, Rohingyas, and Myanmar, and try to get a solution which is you can say that acceptable to all the stakeholders. So that's what India can do. So what is the utility of next article? Central government recent decision to compulsorily retire 2 Indian police service officers and 1 IAS officer for non-performance is bold and laudable, but there is urgent need to take the reforms process forward. So the question may come like that. Context, you know that 2 IPS officers and 1 IAS officers, they were given the compulsory retirement by the government. So which rule they used? Actually, they used the All India Service Rules, according to which it has been written there that if a officer attains the age of 50 or completes the 25 years in the service, so central government can review the service done by the officer, and according to that can also give the compulsory retirement to those officers. So government used this provision to give the compulsory retirement to those officers. And actually the performance of those officers was not good, and also 1 officer was under investigation. So it was a similar step was also taken 40 years ago under the rule of Indira Gandhi, but that was not sufficient, and now it is clear signal to the officers that either they mend their ways, otherwise the strong or strict action would be taken against them. Although service provides a lot of perks to the officers, you can take the case. If there is no bloat on the career of the officers, then they would consistently get the promotion, and pension is also good, or they may earn the maximum pension of 1,12,500 per month. But still they do the corruption, and still they do not perform as they are expected to perform, and only 10% officers, they remain up to the knowledge, and they are honest, and because of that the administration works. The article wants to say that. And then it is said that they don't talk to the normal people, and IPS is no longer, before this, some time ago, IPS used to be a kind of service, and now it has been converted into the force. So that's how administration has been changed. Reason is that few postings in the government are like that. The officers need not to do anything. They just have to work for 2-3 hours, and the rest of the time they are, you can say that they don't do anything. and some postings are very lucrative and very important. So there is a gap between some postings and the other postings. So in this way, those some officers, they become inactive and they become indolent. And this is not case into one service. This is the, you can say, that case of all the services like IPS, IS and IFS, Indian Forest Service. These three are the all India services. And you also know that IRS, that is the central government services. Even young officers, they also get entrapped in the initial years of the service, and they start taking the bribe, and sometimes they also get caught. And you know what kind of test UPSC is taking, because the kind of officers UPSC is recruiting, somehow there may be the lacuna in the test of UPSC also, although they have facilitated the paper of ethics, but still, if this kind of officers have been recruiting, like so you can take the case. Next is, you know, district collectors and SP, Superintendent of Police. They are kind of role model for their junior officers like ADC and ASP. So if they are not active, and if they are not having the good integrity, they are not honest, then you can see the case what kind of influence they have on their junior officers. So, but still some officers are there, because those officers are motivated by the spirit of service and they have conviction. So because of those officers only, now the administration is working fine. And actually, whenever there is a talk of reform in administration, the judiciary interferes into that. And this time also judiciary may interfere. In the past, there have been the various cases where something good done by the government has been overturned by the judiciary. So what now the article is asking the Union Law Ministry that they must be prepared for this. If tribunals do any kind of interference into the reforms done by the government, then they must be prepared for that, and the reforms must be done. So this was a very good article. So next is article of Economics Times. Can Donald Trump become a catalyst for the Asia century? You also know that now the Donald Trump has joined the office, and during the election campaign, he said a lot of things, what kind of policies he may adopt in the future, like he may create a wall, and he may not allow Mexicans to come in USA. And also it was said that he would create jobs for the US people, and how he would create the jobs, because he would adopt the protectionist policies. So now the article says that the protectionist policies are not good. Protectionist policies were also adopted by the many governments in 1930, and it didn't perform well. That's why the GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariff, came to ensure the good trade relations between the various countries. And also GATT turned into the WTO in 1995, because the services were also included into the WTO. And Trump also said that, according to Trump, the indications he gave, US would adopt the isolation in the world matters, and also he would like stop giving the kind of assistance USA was giving to their ally countries in the future. If this kind of things happens, so there is an opportunity for China. China can fill the space which the US, you can say that US has facilitated. So opportunity for the China. And if this happens, Japan and South Korea, they would also acquire some weapons, and India would also try to acquire some weapons. And if India does that, then Pakistan will also not remain behind, and they would also acquire. So article wants to say that there may be the arm race in the Asia, and if Trump goes to the words it used previously, then Iran may also acquire the weapons, because Trump said that when he would join the office, then he would invalidate the deal done with the Iran regarding the nuclear weapons. And Europe, they will also have to acquire the weapons. So the article clearly explicitly says that a kind of instability may prevail if US adopts the policy of isolation, and then the budget allocations for the defense purposes would increase. But actually the article uses the sarcasm that but USA would use its budget to create the construction wall. So again, in the last possibility for the China. What is the utility of this article? Sahayak or orderly system is colonial legacy which must be abolished as soon as possible. What do you think should be replacement of this? As you also know that army personnel Tej Bahadur Yadav, he published his video, and he was actually highlighting the grievances they faced while serving for the army there at the border. So after that, there was a lot of hue and cry over the issues faced by the army personnel there in the army. The main issue was Sahayak system, or you can say that buddy system or orderly system. In orderly system, you know what the army personnel or Jawans, you can say that what they do the work for their army officers. What kind of work they do? Those professional personnel or competitive personnel, they wash the clothes of their officers. They you can say that they polish the shoes of their officers, and they are also iron out the clothes. So this kind of works they do for their officers. And now the article says that this system has been abolished by the many countries because now the force have been modernized, and also this was started by the Britishers in our army, and even Britishers have abolished this system after the World War II, but this has been continued in our army, and although it has been you can say that suspended or abolished by our Air Force and by our Navy. So currently 25,000 such orderlies are there in our army, and we must abolish this system if we want to improve the morale of our army personnel. And next is, you know, why those rural people or army personnel, they join the army because they think that it would enhance their status. But if they have to do this kind of things for their officers, then what kind of status we are talking about? It would be enhanced if they join the army. So what is way forward? Actually, defense minister, he also said that he was former defense minister, he was also against this buddy system. And so two committees came. One committee suggested that we must rename the Sahayak system. Actually, this is not going to help. If you are renaming, so what kind of morale of army personnel would be boosted? Just you are changing the name of that system, but that practice would still be continued. Next is we can also, the army can hire the civilians for this purpose, but this thing is also not good because it will also augment the expenditure of army. So what actually must be the solution of this whole problem? Actually, the officers must do their own work. So this is the only solution. So tomorrow we would discuss again. So thanks very much for discussion.